Hey everyone, I'm Krista and welcome back to Best Health Positively. And this is where we get to talk about all kinds of topics related to health and habits to help us take steps toward our best health. And speaking of topics, I wanted to remind you to share with me topics that you'd like to hear more about. I had a listener yesterday that reached out after an episode she listened to and asked me if I could do an episode on something that branched off of the episode that she was listening to. So I'd love to know what you guys want to hear about. And if it's something I can feasibly work in, I will. So the links to message me are in the show notes, or you can email me at kristanavisky@gmail.com. So if you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And if you've been with us for a while, welcome back. I appreciate you being here too. That's something I do not take for granted. I know you are all busy, you have busy lives, and there's so much available to listen to out there. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into what we're talking about today, and that's the why behind your goals related to your habits. What's the reason you want to change, or let's say add a habit? Why do you want to do it? What will you gain by adding a particular habit? So let's say a quick example, you want to get into a healthy eating routine. So I'd ask you, why? What will you gain by doing this? Some possible answers or reasons you might give would be, I'll lose weight, I'll have more energy, I'll feel more motivated to work out, to prevent chronic disease, etc. So those would be your specific reasons or whys. Okay, so pretty simple. Hopefully that's straightforward and makes sense. And we're focusing on defining these specifically, our whys related to our habits, because the why is so important. It's really the foundational part of establishing habits or habit change. And that's because your why is what will carry you and push you through on those tough days, on the days where you just don't feel like it. Your why is the fuel you need to make changes that last. And depending on the chapter of life that you're in or what you're working on, your why may change, and that's okay. In fact, I'd say that's expected. For instance, let me share a couple of scenarios so it makes more sense. First situation, let's say you're in your 20s. You've never really thought too much about your health, but you just found out you have pre-diabetes. So your why may be to get back to a non-pre-diabetic state and maintain habits that prevent diabetes. On the other hand, another situation, you may have an entirely different scenario. You're living a healthy life with 2 little toddlers. So your why may be about staying healthy, fit, energetic, so you can keep up with them and enjoy a full life with your kiddos. So there's no right or wrong here. It's just very personalized to you and what your situation is. So we're going to focus on 3 things around your why. First is going to be choosing a habit or even a couple similar habits that tie together, and spend some time thinking about your reasons for practicing that habit or habits, or what you have to gain by including this particular habit. So that's number 1. Second is going to be making a list of the reasons, your whys for practicing the habit. And then third is going to be keeping the list nearby and referring to it often. So let's talk about each of these 3 steps in a little more depth. And then after that, I'm going to share some of my personal why list with you. But first, let's review these 3 steps. Number 1, choose the habit. Or as I mentioned, maybe a couple habits that tie together that you want to focus on. Choose the habit or habits and think about it for a little bit. And I'd suggest writing down the reasons you want to include this habit and what you can stand to gain from practicing this habit. This can be really powerful, especially the writing down part, to see it in black and white. I remember doing this exercise before when I was working on this, and really seeing it in black and white was powerful to me, because this whole process of specifying the reasons can really help you gain some momentum and leverage toward whatever you're working on. So going back to that earlier example I mentioned, instead of just thinking, I need to eat healthier, it goes a lot deeper than that. you've been diagnosed with, for example, I mentioned pre-diabetes, and you want to eat healthy and return to a non-pre-diabetic level. Maybe that's your main why. But maybe there are other reasons, such as losing a little weight, having more energy, preventing other chronic conditions that parallel diabetes, like heart disease. So those would all be pretty meaningful whys. So now you've thought about this, you've come up with your reasons, your whys in step 1. And now it's time for step 2, to make that list of your reasons, your whys, for whatever habit you're focusing on. Literally writing it down or typing a list in your phone. In other words, you're not just making this list in your head, you're establishing a formal list, writing it down, or making a list in your phone. And then 3, keeping your list nearby and referring to it often. You can either keep it, as I mentioned, in your phone, in your notes app. That's what I do. I love keeping it in my notes app. Or maybe you put it on a Post-it note where you see it often. That's up to you. But most importantly, you'll want to refer to your list regularly to remind you of your whys. You can use it proactively, which I highly recommend, just meaning make it part of your daily routine. So maybe you're doing some inspirational reading in the morning, you might also review your list. But you can also use it when you find yourself trying to make a decision, or maybe your motivation is low. This can help you, help remind you of the importance and meaning behind whatever you're trying to do, the why behind your habits. It gives more meaning and more depth to practicing healthy habits. So this is a pretty easy 3-step process, but I think you'll find it's really effective. As I mentioned, I use this tool and I keep my why list in my notes app in my phone. And I like it because it's with me during the day. I can refer to it. Usually I try to refer to it in the morning and then later towards the end of the day sometime. So just to give you an idea, I'll share some of the reasons on my why list. And my list combines reasons related to habits around healthy eating, working out, and getting my sleep, just so you know where I'm coming from. So here we go. My list includes waking up before my alarm with energy, having an elevated mood because I'm doing what I say I'm going to do, increased focus and concentration, less inflammation in my body, prevention of all chronic illness, my clothes fitting better, my workout being better, my golf game being better. It helps me build discipline. I enjoy the feeling that I'm holding myself to a higher standard, and my habits are in line with my values about health. So that's a really good part of my list. I hope you'll try this and customize this for whatever you're working on so that it helps you gain just that extra momentum, that leverage, that deeper meaning with your habits so you can push through on those tough days. So as always, reach out with questions, or as I mentioned earlier, if there are topics you'd like to suggest, I'd love to hear about that. Have fun with this, guys. It's an easy tool, but I think it'll make a big difference. Let me know how it goes. And please, if you find this helpful, will you share it with someone else? I would appreciate it. Thanks so much. Take care, and I'll see you guys here again next time.